April Joyce has recently accepted work as a personal trainer and nutrition coach at Lifetime Fitness in California after studying to be a plant-based clinical nutritionist and personal trainer certified with the American Council on Exercise. Congratulations, April.
Thank you very much, Jenny.
Yeah, and thanks for taking the time today. Really appreciate it. I love hearing people's vegan stories, and you have a good one. Can you share your vegan story with us?
Yes, most definitely. I have not been vegan my entire life. In fact, I'm from Kentucky, and I was raised on hunting and fishing and sports that were related with and involved that. I'm embarrassed to say I ate my next door neighbor's rabbit. So
Wow.
knowing what I know now, I did the way I was raised, so I can really relate with anyone where they're coming from and um, try to meet them on their level. So in 2019, I went to the doctor for an annual physical, and we checked my liver enzymes because I used to drink and I've done drugs in my past. So I haven't always lived the healthiest life, and I've just recently taken a new leash on life, if you will. So the doctors did an ultrasound on my gallbladder, which showed sludge. Now, I made them say it to me 3 times because sludge does not sound like medical terminology. I have a history working in the medical field for almost 15 years, and I had not heard of sludge on a gallbladder. So I took a week off of work to deal with my health issues. My doctor set me up with a surgeon. I walk into the surgeon's office and she laughed at me. She said, your gallbladder's not bleeding, you're not dying, it's sludge. Sludge is formed from consumption of meat, dairy, and eggs. So she says, if it gets worse, we can remove your gallbladder, we can put you on medication. But never once did this doctor say to me, we can change your nutrition or your lifestyle and correct or reverse this problem. So I'm really thankful for my sister, Amy Joyce. She has been plant-based and vegan for probably 8 years. So knowing that, she set me up with some movies and documentaries to watch, and I started my own independent research, just realizing, wow, there's another way to live than how we were raised. So many of us are raised on a standard American diet, or that we need meat for strong bone, or to be, protein, and we need milk for strong bones. And when in fact we don't. And the opposite can be true. So I decided to steer my life into a different turn and help guide others to better health through nutrition and fitness and lifestyle. So that's how I discovered it.
And so, were you able to reverse the sludge? Like, did plants clear the sludge out of your system?
Well, I know with how my body feels and how my body's functioning, I'm sure that it's probably better, but I have not had another ultrasound done since that visit. Did not feel like it was necessary, but that's a really good question. So the next time I go in for an annual physical, maybe I'll talk to them about that. But I have gone several times to the doctor and had my blood work done, my hormone levels, chem panel, CBC, even CRP. Those are your C-reactive proteins that check inflammation markers. And every single thing since I have changed my nutrition has improved tenfold. My cholesterol has dropped 60, 70 points. HDL has raised. My hormones look better. My omega-3 levels are better, just all around feeling better. So I know I'm healthier because of this.
And so, how long of a timeline are we talking about here? When did you first learn this?
So this happened November 14th, 2019. So this year will be 2 years for me.
Okay, so fairly quick results, really.
Yes, amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
within just a few months, I already started feeling better.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And so I have a question about your sister then. So this is a common thing I think that happens with a lot of us once we're vegan and we want our loved ones and our friends to know this wonderful lifestyle and it's so healthy and it's so fun and it's not like you're giving up things, it's like you're awakening to a whole new world, and often it's the people closest to us who are the most resistant for some reason to the change. So your relationship with your sister, can I ask, like, was she like, come on, be vegan, and then you just didn't hear it for a while, or how does that work?
My sister never talked about it.
Oh,
She wasn't pushy. She was really loving. Um, Never forced it on me. Never really, just it was something I knew she ate that way, but we really didn't talk about why. And honestly, I can sit here now and say, in the back of my mind, I knew it was right. I knew in the back of my mind it was right. She was doing the right thing. But until I was ready to accept it, so I think that's been one of my downfalls since learning about this. I have taken an approach, and I realize, knowing now, when you talk with people about it, you have to wait until they're open-minded or they're ready to hear it. You cannot be aggressive. You cannot make them defensive, because they shut down and they won't hear anything you have to say. I mean, we can't forget the power of planting a seed. And, this is why I wanted to get my education, so I can factually explain to someone the benefits behind this type of nutrition. But I think in the beginning, for me, I wanted to convert everyone instantly because of how I felt. And so many people, like, they're more successful when they slowly transition. Not everyone, it happens overnight. So sometimes, making small steps, just adding more fruits and vegetables into our diet, and or eliminating animal products, one meal at a time, one day at a time, a few meals or a few days a week, so we can go 70%, 80%, 90%. Ultimately, you know, I always explain to people that the science is clear. Someone who follows a plant-based diet will live on average 7 to 10 years longer with a healthier life. And the science is clear even when it comes to athletic performance and athletic capacity. With our blood flow, the viscosity, the less inflammation, more endurance, more energy. You can even have this really big, strong, muscular guy at the gym, and when you tell him, when you're consuming dairy, that significantly increases the amount of estrogen that your body is intaking, which reduces your testosterone. It can reduce a man's testosterone twice the amount or three times the amount, thus lessening their ability to build their muscle, because we men need more testosterone to build muscle. So just little facts like that and a little bit of information, someone can decrease their animal products, the amount that they're eating, and they'll actually see better results in the gym and see better results in their health. Once people start seeing better results, they might make more and more and more changes. So I think it's important that we kind of address everyone, how I would want to have them to have addressed me, when I was in their shoes 3 years ago or 4 years ago or 5 years ago.
right. Yeah. Yeah, The Game Changers is a good documentary for men talking about the testosterone
Yes,
component. Yeah. And because it's interesting that a lot of people,
I love that one.
yeah, well, I found it like a little too masculine. It was I was appreciated that they had the woman racer, the bike racer in there. Otherwise, it was very, but that's good. I mean, that's a part of the population that really needs to hear that message, I think. And because there's a lot of mythology around tofu. People think that if they have tofu, then they're going to get the man boobs. But in fact, it's the dairy that is promoting that, isn't it?
And many people are mistaken. It's not estrogen. They're actually plant phytoestrogens, which in men or women, they can actually help balance our hormone levels. So in a woman, they would make our progesterone or estrogen more normal and more balanced, and same goes with a man. So we're not going to have those estrogen-like qualities. You really would have to consume a lot of tofu, like more than 8 or more servings a day, to notice any kind of negative impact. You'd have to be eating a lot of tofu. But studies have shown we have decreased risk of cancer by consuming soy products. So I love soy. I don't think I eat it every day, but I eat it when I want to.
Yeah, it's more beneficial than we've been told for whatever reason, and we can look at the Asian populations who've eaten it for generations and have really great longevity, right? Did Was the China study part of Forks Over Knives? Was that one of the documentaries you watched?
Yes, I have seen Forks Over Knives, What the Health, Game Changers, Cowspiracy. I've seen Earthlings, Dominion. I've watched Eating You Alive, Diet Fiction, Plant Pure Nation, Hope, What We Eat Matters. I've seen Unsupersize Me, Unsupersize Us, Seaspiracy. There's a huge list. Prayer for Compassion. I think that's one of the most recent ones I've watched. That one was really good.
There's so much, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of plant-based and vegan doctors really focus in on just that component, and that's great. That's great. But I really appreciate that you also have the animal compassion piece that you promote on your social media. And did that sort of happen at the same time as you were transitioning, or did that come later?
Well, because I took a whole week off of work and my sister said, watch Forks Over Knives. The next thing I know, she's like, let me know when you finish it. I'll give you another one to watch. I didn't need to do that because I had a whole week off work. And I remember watching one after the other, after the other, after they're literally staying up all night and binge watching them. And after I'd seen 4 or 5 documentaries, that's when I decided to watch Earthlings and Dominion. And I will never forget it. And I always warn people, it's not necessarily something I would use with clients. Maybe if they are open to it or ask questions about it, but I would always let them know, listen, these movies are horribly graphic. They can be really traumatizing. I wanted to watch them because I felt like it was necessary for me to witness what I have been taking part of for so long. And it's one of those things, I think it's called cognitive dissonance, but we really don't put 2 and 2 together because we have been so conditioned, society and the way we were raised. And when we go to the grocery to buy food, we don't associate animal products with the actual animal. It's in a little styrofoam wrapped in cellophane. It looks pretty. And I was always raised, you have to have that as part of your plate. And I'll never deny the fact it tastes delicious. And that's one thing I would probably make me sick now if I were to eat an animal product. But that's one thing that I think for many people that they can't overcome because it's a real, people have real attachments to food. I know I do. Someone wants to take my food away from me, oh, I might be a little angry. So that's one thing. So for me, when I watched Earthlings and Dominion, I laid in bed and I bawled. I literally bawled. But I'm thankful that I saw it. But I have learned some coping mechanisms since then, because after watching it, that's when I was like, oh, on everyone. And I think I probably irritated all my friends and family. They're like, oh my God, not this girl again. She's going to be talking about vegan. Sometimes to this day, I still get off on that tangent sometimes, but I got to remember, you have to just meet people where they are and be loving and understanding. And, you don't want to make someone defensive and push them away from a great message. And I like to tell people too, you don't need to be vegan to be perfect. You don't need to be vegan to make small changes. You don't need to be vegan to be plant-based. We can start, you can start being concerned about your health or the health of your friends and your family. What are you feeding your children? Because we're talking about toxins. We're talking about cancer causing food that we're feeding our family. I think many people aren't aware of. So just changing it in small amounts. Now, that's not saying that they might not want to be vegan after learning this information. I always say never say never, and they just kind of laugh. But, if every human on this planet were even 70%, 80%, 90% plant-based, this planet would be in a much more amazing place than just, maybe the 7-8 million vegans that we have on the planet right now. So if every vegan out there were to remember, you're going to catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, and there's a way to go about it, then we might possibly make bigger changes than we would expect. Than if you come at people really harsh, that's not a way to get anyone to listen to anything.
With vegan honey, right? We catch them with vegan
Oh,
honey.
sure.
Yeah.
Agave or maple syrup. You're right about that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's. I think there's a room for a variety of approaches, though, like the cube of truth idea of just having it out there, and once that image gets into somebody's brain, then it might start the wheels grinding. Because at the same time, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. We have to meet people where they are and try to be patient. But at the same time, the animals are suffering like every second of every day, right? So that, I think, is where that urgency comes from. So you're in a wonderful place now. You got this new job. It's so wonderful. And so being vegan has really changed your life trajectory, it seems like. And so what does it mean now to be a personal trainer and nutrition coach? What is your job about?
Well, I'm really excited to be partnering with Lifetime Fitness now. I like their concept. I like their mission statement. I like what they have available to them, like the scientific metabolic analysis and data that they can do and test on clients. Also, they do blood work and lab panels. So I can actually inform people about their nutrition and talk with them about the inflammatory properties that they're getting, because the animal products, meat, dairy, and eggs, and processed foods are the most inflammatory products that people can be eating. So they contain NEU5GC, that's glyconeurominic acid, sialic acid, pro-inflammatories. They have TMAO, that's trimethylene oxide, oxidized cholesterol. They have all these harmful things in them, which actually will raise your CRP levels, those inflammatory levels. They will affect your hormones in a negative way. So, you can have a client and, how about a 30-day trial? Let's do a 30-day plant-based trial. I promise you're going to have foods that you're going to enjoy, you're going to love. And let's check your blood before and after, and you can see the difference with your own two eyes, plus you're going to feel the difference. So it's just an amazing place to be, especially like I said earlier about talking with men and testosterone levels. And, when we look at all the plant-based athletes that we have now, they know that there's a huge advantage to the nutrition that we put in our body.
Can you name some of those athletes for people who aren't aware?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I have a couple of really good friends, like Robert Cheek and Jeff Palmer. Robert and Matt Frazier just wrote Plant-Based Athlete. So I'm reading that one right now. Robert also wrote Shred It. That's really good. But we've got huge athletes right now, like Chris Paul and Kyrie Irving. We've got linebackers, the Tennessee Titans. Let's see, Venus and Serena Williams. We've got Megan Duhamel, Nimai Delgado, a really big bodybuilder. Carl Lewis, longtime vegan runner. We've got long distance runners like Scott Jurek and Rich Roll. Mike Tyson has been vegan for the last 10 years after he changed his life and turned it around from all the drugs and the abuse that he put on his body. He's discovered even people like old school, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, after all the abuse that he put on his body, now realizing and discovering the benefits of a plant-based diet, he is plant-based. So it's neat just to see how many are out there.
Absolutely. They're very inspiring, and especially for young folks who are athletic. And how are they performing in comparison? They're doing well out there?
Oh, sure. And so these figures, we have studies, exercise physiologists have studied since 1972 They have studied nutrition and diet on athletic performance. So they actually have done studies on collegiate athletes. They put them on exercise bicycles, had them on an all like protein and fat diet, just animal products, and their athletic performance was 60 minutes on as how long they were able to endure. And then they put them on another diet, which is closer to a Mediterranean. So it's animal products with some carbohydrates and fruits and vegetables. So they raised their athletic performance and their ability to ride at maximum capacity, their maximum VO2 level for 120 minutes. And then these same athletes, they changed their diets to all plant-based or a vegan diet, and their athletic performance went to 160 or 180 minutes. So your endurance is better, your inflammation is less, your recovery time is much quicker. The delayed onset muscle soreness that people will experience is extremely lessened when you when your nutrition is dialed in and on point. It truly is clean eating. I like to, it cracks me up when people talk about they're eating clean, but I hear all these things that they're consuming. I'm thinking to myself in the back of my head, that's really not clean eating. You know, if we're putting those things in our body that are causing disease.
And we know that it's interesting that you know the is it the World Health Organization has told us that especially processed meats like bacon and sausages are carcinogenic on the same scale as tobacco, and yet there's they eventually they came around to putting warning labels on tobacco, but I'm not sure, like it's interesting, there's that huge gap, and just the difference in the sort of level of information that we get about plant-based versus the level that we get about animals. There's so much advertising and misinformation out there. How do you counter some of those studies? Because there's studies that come out that are sponsored by like the dairy industry, right? Do you come across people who are convinced because of those articles?
Oh, yes, definitely that happens. And I always like to explain, I can get on the internet and find an answer that I want. If you pay enough money, you can get any study to say what you want it to say. So we have to keep in mind who the studies are sponsored by, who they're paid for, and how the studies are done. Are they double-blind studies? And are they done in a fair, non-biased way, or are they paid for by the same people that are actually producing the products? A lot of people don't know that, like bacon, sausage, beef jerky, hot dogs, lunch meat, including chicken, turkey, those are, like you said, class 1 carcinogenics. That means they do cause cancer. No ifs, ands, buts about it. They do cause cancer. We know these are carcinogenic. I think it's just a matter of time before the FDA will be mandated to put warning labels on those products. But in the meantime, I think with the animal agriculture industry and lobbyists, they're probably spending a lot of money to make sure that that hasn't happened yet. But even with other animal products, like red meat, like deer, lamb, mutton, cows, pigs, those are probably carcinogenic. So we have to think about this. Like, what are we feeding to? Do you really want to feed your children something that's probably carcinogenic? Why do we want to eat something like that? And I really compare it to like smoking a cigarette for oxygen or drinking a Coca-Cola for hydration, for water. Like, yes, animal products do have nutrition in them. I will never deny that. You will get some nutrition. You will get some macronutrients, some micronutrients, and some nutrition, but the health risks behind, associated with them aren't worth that. Our bodies aren't designed biologically to eat animal products. And that's one thing too. Like, I've had family members say, oh, I'm supposed to eat meat because I have canines. Well, those really aren't canines.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
Compare those to a lion's teeth canines, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
these are for grinding, right? These teeth.
Yes. Well, yeah, that was a big one too when we discussed the biology. And it's not just our teeth, it's our hands, our fingers, our fingernails. They're for picking and digging. If you were in a room with a pig and had to catch it with no tools, no weapons, nothing but, I like to hear Earthling Ed describe it. You could tackle the pig and tickle it, and he would probably roll on the ground and let you get his belly. But, could you imagine just having to subdue an animal with nothing but your hands and your mouth? Like we don't have the canines, they're not anchored in our jaws. We don't have the teeth structure, the jaw structure. Our jaw structures go side to side, and carnivores and omnivores only go up and down, and their canines are mounted into their jaw several inches, so that they're not broken by the force of tearing into animal. And then we also don't have the same enzymes in our mouth. Our tongues aren't the same as the carnivore or omnivore. Our enzymes in the mouth are meant to break down carbohydrates and glycogen, and carnivores and omnivores are meant to break down proteins and fats more so. So it goes all the way down to our stomach acids, our digestive system, basically from head to toe. What humans are, we're hominids. We are primates closest to frugivores, and we are meant to thrive on fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and legumes, and not meant to thrive on animal products. So yes, we can get our nutrition from them, but I don't recommend it. It's not wise, it's not healthy. And if we're, wanting to look our best, feel our best, live longest, have the best mental health, there's just so many studies out there that indicate that eating plants is definitely the healthiest thing that we can do. Like the China study, that's another one that you mentioned earlier. It's a great study. The longest living people on this planet eat 97% of their diet is consisted of plants. So there's a direct correlation with how long we live versus how many animal products that we eat. My only regret is not knowing about this and not discovering the truth sooner.
Yeah, the vegan regret, that seems to be very common. But we're here now, and we're trying to help others find their way here as well. And there's so many new studies. The China study, I think, was a real sort of pivotal for its time. And then now I listen to PCRM a lot, the Exam Room Daily podcast series. They're wonderful. I love Dr. Barnard and their team. And there's so many studies coming out. It sounds like it must be hard to keep up with it all, is it?
It is hard to keep up with it all, but because it is my passion and I love it so much, I try to stay on top of all these wonderful plant-based doctors there are out there, and there's so many, and I love every one of them for the work that they're doing. And I really honestly like to take a little bit of what every single one of them is saying and combine it into my own life and my own activities. And I like to hear their different thoughts. And they don't play on each other like a lot of times other doctors will do. They'll listen to the research that this one has found and possibly make it better. So I like that about all the plant-based doctors. So I have attended the annual Food Revolution Summit 2 years in a row now. So I get a lot of cutting edge information from that. And there's usually 20 to 30 different doctors on that. Plus, I'm just reading one book after another, after another, after another. So I can learn from each one of them. But I do like to follow them. So during COVID, I started becoming really good friends with all these different doctors. Kim A. Williams, the former president of the American College of Cardiology, is a friend of mine, and Pamela Popper. So, and I can't even list all of them right now. In fact, I met my boyfriend through Facebook during COVID, and he went to UC Davis Medical School. He has his master's in public health, and he's board certified in lifestyle medicine.
Wow.
So between him and myself, we're always trying to stay open-minded and the information that we get from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine and all the magazines that come out, including the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. I love Dr. Neil Bernard and Dr. Michael Grieger. Dr. Michael Grieger was one of my teachers. I I got my certificate through Plant Pure Communities, and Dr. Michael Clapper taught that with Dr. Michael Grieger, who was there. Also have registered dietitians, Juliana Heber and Brenda Davis, and then Rich Roll and Robert Cheek were on there also. It's amazing to me to learn the different diseases which are caused by the consumption of animal products. So I had 12 master classes learning about cardiovascular disease, obesity, diabetes, gastrointestinal diseases, autoimmune diseases. So the list just goes on with all the things that they do to our body because we aren't meant to consume them biologically, and the biochemistry that takes place when we consume them. And I don't think as many people realize the power of good plant-based nutrition and how it can change their lives mentally and physically. And a lot of that is because of the medical schools, the current medical school system, and how they're being taught. On average in medical school, a doctor does not receive more than 2 to 10 hours of nutrition. And they learn about pharmaceuticals, pills, and procedures, but they don't learn about the power of plant-based nutrition. So I'm really excited to see doctors like Dr. Michael Clapper going into medical schools and starting to teach students. And there's a new medical school in North Carolina that actually has a plant-based program, and their doctors in training are going through culinary training too to learn how to teach that. And so all these plant-based doctors are really making leaps and bounds as far as getting out there and spreading the word and sharing the information. And hopefully we will change the medical system, change newer doctors that they become educated about this. Unfortunately, the doctors that we have in place right now, I've read that on average, they're about 13 years behind scientific research and studies that come out. That's because every time a new American Medical Journal comes out, they're this thick. Doctors don't have time to sit through and read all of this new information that comes out because they're busy seeing patients. So what they've learned in medical school has changed so much. It changes every year. So it's really important, I think, for people to be educated and stay on top of their health and their nutrition, and not just trust and rely on everything their doctors say, but take their health into their own hands, like I did. It's important. If I had followed that doctor and listened to her and not have my sister, I might not have a gallbladder right now. And how many people do you know that don't have their gallbladder, or all these medical conditions, or taking these medications because they just listened to their doctor and didn't do their own research and didn't try to change their lifestyle or their nutrition because of it.
That's really interesting that here in Canada, we have a subsidized healthcare for all system, and it's not perfect. For example, it doesn't cover dental care like they do in countries like Cuba, where everything's covered, and some Scandinavian countries. So we're lobbying them constantly to change that rather than moving to a privatized system, which seems to be the trend. But so my point being, the healthier we are, the less impact that has on the system overall. And so it seems to me it would be in everybody's best interest to encourage individuals, as you suggested, to take nutrition into your own hands. I think we can't expect our medical doctors to do everything, right? And I remember meeting a medical doctor who said, I don't have all the tools in my tool chest. And if I think you're going to benefit from acupuncture, for example, or, from a chiropractor, I'm going to refer you to them because they're experts in their field. And I think we ought to look at nutrition in the same way, right? It's a whole other body of knowledge. So I'm wondering, you have a different system in the U.S., and I know there's lots of talk about trying to shift that over to more accessible system. In Canada, regardless of whatever system we have, it seems like people do listen to their doctors, and they do listen to whatever the government says regarding the food guide. So Brenda Davies was one of the people who helped get Canada's food guide more inclusive of plant-based and got dairy out of having its own food group and that sort of thing. And I think that's slowly having an impact here. Especially institutions now, like schools, you can say, well, look, even the government that's funding the public schools says you shouldn't be on this milk program necessarily, right? So it gives advocates a lot of power as well. Is there anything going on regarding the U.S. food guide that you know of to make it more plant-based friendly?
Well, let me just first say Canada's guidelines are amazing, so much better than ours, and one of the best in the world. They finally realized, and in their healthcare system is a little different also, though. I think they have this system into place that they realize that they will save more money on pills and procedures and healthcare costs if they have a correct nutritional guideline to base that on. So when the United States adopts more of a plant-based nutritional guideline, when we ditch dairy like Canada has, when we finally wise up and realize that this is what we need to do, then healthcare costs will go down. But unfortunately, right now, it's in the US, it's different. We have the government and the private industry are separate. And, again, it's very unfortunate that these are money-making industries, not necessarily concerned about the health and welfare of the Americans. They're more concerned about the financial aspects of it. So when more and more information is spread, and when we share this information with others, and hopefully we'll see nutrition guidelines come around. And, it's happening slowly but surely. I really like the work of Dr. Neil Bernard and the Physicians Committee on Responsible Medicine. They have actually sued the USDA and the FDA multiple times, and they have won multiple times. And they have been a big factor in having our nutritional guidelines changed. So over time, they have changed, and they're not perfect by all means, but they're so much better than they were. 45 years ago when I was born and a child, we had the pyramid and it was so animal-based. And now it's less animal-based. It's my plate. You see fruits and vegetables, beans, nuts, seeds, legumes being so much more of a portion on that plate. And it no longer says meat. It now says protein. Acceptable sources of protein can be beans and legumes and nuts and seeds and tofu and tempeh and soy. So that's really important to remember when we're educating friends and family members that protein doesn't have to come from animal products. So I would like to see the U.S. remove dairy off the guidelines and replace that with water, especially looking at children. The American Pediatrics Association has already come out and said, do not feed cow's milk to infants under the age 1. You're increasing your risk of type 1 diabetes. You're setting up a person for obesity problems for life. We're finding atherosclerosis in children in the ages of 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. Wow. Cow's milk contains bovine insulin, high amounts of estrogen and progesterone, huge amounts of insulin-like growth factors. And if we actually just step back for a moment and take a look at what cow's milk is, it's the breast milk of another species. It's food for a baby cow. It's meant to get a cow about 600 pounds in 6 months. So why are we eating this, drinking this, and especially feeding it to our loved ones, recommending it in schools, in nursing homes? The people that are the most innocent and defenseless are our children and our seniors. Kids don't question this. They just eat what they're told. And we have this mindset that was so old, and it's nobody's fault, really. It's been a system that has not been perfect for years now, and some people just think they're doing the right thing. So it's important that we just become educated. And I'd like to see it out of schools and out of nursing homes and off the nutritional guidelines. I really love Dr. Milton Mills when he talks about dairy, Dr. Brooke Goldner and her talking about dairy. I really love Neil Bernard and Michael Grieger and Michael Clapper. I could go on and on about all the great doctors that there are out there.
I love the way when Dr. Clapper says that when his patients ask him if they should be drinking milk, and he says to them, look in the mirror. do you have little ears coming out of your head? And do you have a fuzzy tail? And do you have like a snout? And if you don't, then you're not a baby cow and you don't need to be drinking milk, right?
This is so correct. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so simple. And you're right. I mean, it's a tradition. And I think maybe there was a time in our human history when we were defenseless beings on the planet and we needed a quick source of protein every now and then. And it was a big deal to kill an animal. And then we moved to the farm situation with the happy animals, and we had to take their lives every now and then, and that was survival. But we're in such a different time now. We're confronting the climate crisis. We've just experiencing what a pandemic is like, and possibly the first of many if we don't change. And the human health aspect, I think that's a really great place to be. You seem really passionate about it, and I'm sure your clients are going to get a lot of benefit from what you have to share, and then they can then share that in the community. So for let's say new vegans, like people who are transitioning, I have one friend who she watched, I think, Dominion, and then she wanted to become vegan, and I think she just went straight for the beans, and didn't have great time in the digestive area because it's such a huge difference for our bodies, right? What do you suggest for people who are just wanting to get rid of those animal proteins? How can we transition our bodies safely?
Um, that's a really good question, Janine. And I think the answer is going to be different for everyone. And Dr. Will Bolsowitz is really, I don't know if his book Fiber Fueled is awesome, but he talks about that we have 390 trillion bacteria in our gut microbiome. So there's, hundreds of thousands of species of plants on this planet, and every single person's gut microbiome is completely different. So what one person's gut microbiome can handle, another person's might not be able to. But the nice thing about our gut microbiome, it's always changing, and we have the ability to change it. So your friend, for example, like I would work with someone like that closely, and we can change our gut microbiome just from one spoonful of beans a day. If you eat that consistently for about 2 weeks, you have built up the bacteria in the gut microbiome, and they're actually able to process and digest the beans more successfully than if someone went from not eating them at all to all of a sudden eating a cup or two a day. Yeah, they're going to get some intestinal issues going on, some bloating, some gas, some discomfort. It's not going to be nice. So it's different for everyone. Like for me, I went cold tofurkey. So I went all in, and I started eating. I just took all the foods I normally ate and I veganized them. So I used a lot of plant-based alternatives, some products out there, some vegan products I used Beyond and Impossible and Gardein and things like that, because that's what I was used to. I just replaced my meat products with things like that. Now, was it the healthiest thing I could have done? No. Is it the healthiest way people can live? No. They're highly processed. They usually have a lot of fats and oils and sugar and things that aren't good for our body, chemicals we can't pronounce. But I changed my gut microbiome. I changed my taste buds, and it was easy for me to go to plant-based after doing that. I think it's great for people who are trying to transition until they get their taste buds changed. But for someone who wanted to just go to the healthiest and plant-based, which is, knowing what I know now, I probably would be more of an advocate for promoting that and less processed foods. I would say find your favorite foods, your favorite recipes. I usually sit with somebody and do a 4-day food journal. That way I get an idea of what kind of foods they like to eat. And then we would find a healthy plant-based alternative. Carbohydrates are huge in humans' diets, and they get a really bad rap. People think, because you hear of all these low-carb diets and Atkins and keto, and, oh, I'm going to gain weight if I eat carbohydrates. but yet our brains and our bodies are fueled on glycogen, and we need to run. But the thing is, we need to run on unrefined carbohydrates. So starchy vegetables, squash, potatoes, sweet potatoes, whole grains, and I think we need to have a big base of fruits and vegetables in our diet also. But you can take a look at all your favorite meals, whether they're spaghetti or tacos or nachos or enchiladas or chili or curry or stir fry Asian food, and we can find an alternative, a plant-based, whole food, plant-based, healthy way to cook it and eat it, and it tastes yummy, and you'll feel a lot better for doing it. But I think making changes slowly is often beneficial for people's diet and their gut health, not going like crazy on one particular item that might set them off, like the beans or something like that. Beans are really common when I hear from people like, oh, I can't eat beans, they do this to me. Well, you got to start slow.
And even some beans, like I react differently with chickpeas, for example, than black beans. So, yeah, the gut microbiome is fascinating, isn't it? There's a
Yes, it
whole
is.
other discussion there, and sort of new territory that people are exploring, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is. And the amazing thing about our gut microbiome is 95% of the serotonin our body makes, 90 to 95% comes from our gut. So our brains and the taste buds on our tongue and the bacteria in our gut microbiome, they all work together and produce these chemicals. So we have then, these awesome chemicals running through our body, like serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, epinephrine, all these oxytocin, excuse me, all these great hormones that are running through our bodies, which it can be from the foods we eat. So Dr. Bolsowitz recommends as much variety of plant-based foods that you can in a week, 30 or more. And I shoot for sometimes 30 species in one meal. So I like to have a big variety, lots of different plant foods and lots of different fruits and vegetables, especially. And they do make me feel amazing. And I find myself wanting to eat them more and more. Oh, this is a funny story. When I first went plant-based, about 3 months in, I'm driving home and my windows are rolled down. It's really hot outside and I was starving, couldn't wait to get home to eat. Someone was mowing their yard. My mouth starts watering. I could have gotten out of the car and eaten their grass. So people were like, well, that's all vegans eat is salad and grass and stuff. I had no idea how true that could be, like how much I wanted it and I craved it, and just how that I could not believe that made my mouth water for someone's grass. But I laughed about that, something I'll never forget. So people think, oh, I could never do that, because I used to be one of those people. I thought I could never do that, and now I find myself just craving all these yummy, delicious fruits and vegetables. And your taste buds do change every 2 weeks. About they fall out. You have 13,000, 14,000 little taste buds on all of your tongue. They literally fall out and regrow.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So they're constantly changing. So we can change them. Just even with our children, a lot of times people say, well, my kids won't eat that, or that my kids won't eat this. All it takes is one bite. You sneak one bite in there, and we can even hide it in their food so that they don't know, cook it in their food, like if they don't put like broccoli or asparagus or something. And then after about 2 weeks, you've actually changed the gut microbiome. The taste buds will fall out and regrow, and then someone will actually start liking a food. Now, are you going to like every food? Not necessarily. Like raspberries, I like raspberries, but they're not my favorite. My boyfriend loves them. I put one on my oatmeal in the morning with the rest of my fruits, but I'll put 8, 9, 10 of them on his oatmeal. Every person's different, though. We all have our likes and dislikes.
We are. We're all different,
Yeah.
and all the animals are different too.
Yep.
And the more we can shift away from eating them, the better off we're all going to be. Absolutely. Well, April, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. So, if people want to contact you, do they have to go to a Lifetime Fitness place in California, or do you do any phone consultations or that sort of thing?
I have the ability now to do nutrition coaching online through Lifetime.
Oh,
And
awesome.
they're very reasonable. It's a $15 a month, I believe, virtual membership that someone would be able to enroll in, and then they could do nutrition coaching. So I'm able to work with families, individuals, schools, whoever I might like to. I'm excited about this opportunity with Lifetime Fitness.
That's awesome. Well, you have a great road ahead of you. And so people can find you on Facebook, April Joyce, or go to lifetimefitness.com, I guess, something like that. Is Lifetime like a chain of places throughout California that people can go to, or
They're all over the U.S.
all over the US? Okay.
Yeah, or you can go online. We have virtual training online, so we can actually do. A lot of people still don't want to get out because of COVID, or just because of their work schedule or convenience. They want to exercise at home. So we have training programs virtually. Also, people can do. We have the greatest equipment to do physiological and postural analysis, which it's computerized, where it will trigger on bones and joints, and so we can do a bend and lift screen, a hurdle step test, stabilization screens, and physiological assessments too. So and then we can design a program and a workout and work with someone and change their workouts online also. So it's not just nutrition coaching that someone would have access to. They would be able to have access to a whole lot of valuable things.
Cool.
So, and then they can go in person. There might be one in a city near them if they want to check online, lifetimefitness.com.
Right, right. Well, now more than ever, we understand the importance of good health, I think. And is there anything you want to say before we go?
Well, I would just like to put myself out there, put my name out there, and I always like to meet new friends and answer questions. I usually get back with my clients within 24 to 48 hours. So if anybody has any questions for me, I'm here, I'm available, I'm able to answer some questions. So reach out and contact me. If I don't know the answer, I will find it for you, or I will put you in contact with someone that I recommend, because I do have a lot of great teachers out there, and there's a lot of people that know a lot more than me. So if I'm not able to help someone, or if you have extreme disease or disability that I feel like you need to work with a Lifetime professional, I will definitely put you in contact with someone that's more qualified than I am. But I do like to help as many people as possible, and I'm so passionate about it. I have always said, I think I would do this for free just because I love it so much. So I'm glad to be doing something. I can wear gym pants and tennis shoes to work every day and get paid to do what I love. So
And
I'm just so blessed and so thankful and so grateful.
it's wonderful
And
to be
thank
able to.
you for having me.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thank you. It's wonderful to be able to be your authentic self at every moment, isn't it? It's a wonderful
Mm-hmm.
thing. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks so much and good luck, and we'll stay in contact. Hey.
Thanks, Janine. I appreciate it.